During last September's Nintendo Direct, there were a lot of good reveals and new footage that we got to see. Like the other Directs before it, it was a pretty good one. Now, you would think that I would be naturally more excited and drawn to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, for instance, or Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, or something else or another, right? The thing that I was most hyped for was actually this game. Yeah, unironically, this was the thing that I was most excited for, simply because while I know there was a Princess Peach game back in 2005 for the DS called Super Princess Peach, this was the first Princess Peach standalone game in a very long time, and I really think that we were long overdue for one. And with all the different sorts of things that they showed off in the trailer, where you're basically Princess Peach, but kind of doing all these different jobs, kind of like what Mario does, where he's anything but a plumber, except it's all in this one game. And I thought the sort of general premise of it being able to change your outfits and having each level specific to those outfits was just super appealing and was just something that seemed really fun. And guess what? I can happily say that it is indeed very fun. Now, some people may expect something that is more of a challenge, but as you've seen in the title, that is not the case. This game is a rather simple one in its design. It's simple, but that doesn't make it a bad game by any means. It's just that some people might be looking for something with a bit more of a challenge. And if you are someone who is looking for a challenge, you're not gonna really find that here. But this game is essentially for maybe your little children, a younger sibling, or just someone you're introducing video games to for the first time. This is kind of one of the ones that I would say is a pretty good starter game. Obviously, there are better starters out there, but you know, if you are looking for something that is simple enough, or maybe they've played a few games here and there, and they just want something straight up fun, this would be a great game to play. But maybe this isn't your first rodeo, and you're just looking for something fun and not too overly strenuous. It's also made for these people too. Like, maybe you're playing handheld and you just want to snuggle up on the couch with a warm blanket, sort of turn off your brain, go through the motions, and have fun. It's not quite to the same degree as Coffee Talk or Animal Crossing or even a Stardew, where it's just the same sort of repetitive actions and daily tasks that you've got to complete. But rather, it is a straightforward game that doesn't really require a lot of thinking. Because honestly, most of this game is just a simple platformer, where you might solve a couple of puzzles here and there, none of which really take a detective to figure out, but it's really more just about its visual style and presentation that I think is what's going to sell this game and is going to attract people to it the most. And that is exactly what attracted me to it the most. It's just how fun and glamorous it all looks. It seems more like a visually stunning and flashy showpiece than anything. But with that being said, I could only imagine just how much better it could look on more modern hardware, or at least something that compares to the power of last gen. I know the next Nintendo console will likely be comparable to the PS4 and the Xbox One, but I just can't help but think about how much better these games would look, even with a little resolution boost. Other Switch games also run in 1080p and still look fantastic, but depending on what the game is and how demanding it can be, it sometimes doesn't look as great. Though I would say I am usually more lenient. If there is a game I could compare this to, I would say that this in some ways reminds me of Kirby and the Forgotten Lands that was released a couple years ago, which was also really fun. Although I will say that I did think it posed more of a challenge, simply because it had a larger map with more to explore, and thus more enemies and things to find within each level. That was a different type of game, more like Sackboy's Big Adventure, another 3D platformer. Princess Peach Showtime, on the other hand, is more like a 2.5D side-scroller, more akin to Super Mario 3D World. And if you feel somewhat like Yoshi's Woolly World or Yoshi's Crafted World, it's because it's by the same devs. Now, I haven't finished this game yet, but I have played through enough levels to understand how the game plays though, through a variety of level types that you'll experience. So in one level, you may have to decorate a cake, one level you might have to use your ninja skills to hide in the bushes and camouflage against walls, or one where you're wrangling criminals with your lasso. Maybe even put on a little ice skating show. There are a lot of various types of levels, and the ever-changing nature of them always sort of keeps it fresh. Now, even though I haven't beaten it yet, it's probably likely that some of these levels where you're playing these different roles will reappear, like when you have to play as Sword Fighter Peach quite a few times. But the great part is, even when you do have to reposition yourself into one of those roles, the levels itself vary enough to keep things new and interesting. The enemy encounters and the combat in general are pretty simple. They're not hard to dodge or take down. Even the boss fights. If you know the basic rhythm, then you know exactly how to beat them, and you can beat them fairly easily. Now that is one of the things that I think makes one of these games more approachable, that makes it a nice introduction to your kids or parent or whoever you're introducing into gaming to sort of grasp the idea of how these sorts of games play. And because of the rhythm in these games are straightforward, where you just have to press one button to dodge and then another to immediately strike, it helps them understand these patterns and that there are rhythms to things to get used to once you start introducing them to other types of games like Mario or Zelda. These games use similar boss battle ideologies. For Nintendo fans, you'll probably already expect this, but it's important to know this. Like much of Nintendo's first-party lineup, it is also marked up at full price. The question is Is it really worth it? Is the price tag justified? Well, to be quite honest, I don't really think most Nintendo games are, with the exception of the Zelda games and maybe a handful of others, but most of the games that Nintendo puts out, I don't really think should be priced as high as they are. Of course, when you consider and compare it to Mario Strikers Battle League, for example, then absolutely, it's way more worth it. It's definitely got a leg up, but I mean, we're comparing something that is outrageously overpriced to something that is still somewhat overpriced. Don't get me wrong, I still think that this game is pretty great and all, but I don't know if I can recommend spending your money, because while it's a pretty game, it's also a pretty penny. Obviously, value is determined differently by different people, and you might be okay with spending it, but if you're looking to save up some of your cash for maybe another game or just save it in general, then I can't really recommend picking this up. On the other hand, if you are looking to pick this up at some point, just get it, because given the fact that this is a first party game, it's unlikely to go on sale anytime soon, and when it does, you won't be saving much. What I'd highly recommend, however, is if you're planning on purchasing another full price game at a later date as well, I would suggest purchasing a voucher on the eShop. That way, you can save quite a bit. If you're still on the fence, however, and you're not sure if you want to spend, then maybe consider not buying it, because it doesn't do anything groundbreaking, and it's not what I would call a must-play. It ain't your Mario Kart, or your Super Smash Bros., or your Super Mario Odyssey. Aside from its potentially overpriced value, Princess Peach Showtime is a joy from start to finish. Every level is something exciting, and the vibes this game exudes just make it all the more fun and charming. That's kind of what I like about certain games. Not every game needs to be super duper complex or needs some deep intricate systems. Sometimes a video game can just be a video game, and that's enough for me.